Hey, this is Peggy with Easy Peasy Machine Embroidery, and today I am in my Sonnet Platinum, and I am going to attempt to show you how to make a Valentine's Day table mat. And this is what the table mat looks like. I designed it to go on the 260 by 260 hoop, and I'm betting you can tell that this is a lot bigger than the 260 by 260 hoop. And that is because I have drilled out my sonnet table. If I said sonnet table, sorry, I meant to say sew steady table. And basically all I did was I got myself some graph paper, which you can easily download off of Google. And I set it up with dots at 1/4 inch intervals. And I dropped my needle in the first one and I took it straight out and I taped it to the bottom of my Sew Steady table. And then I had my boyfriend come in with the drill and the very smallest drill bit he had, and he drilled a hole in each one of those dots. And basically all I do is I was using a push pin through the fabric, through the hole in my Sew Steady table, and I had to hold it with my hand as the machine was sewing it around in the circle. And lately I've actually started using a very, very skinny probably, I don't know, 10 penny nail or what you would call them, but it's very, very skinny and it fits right down through that hole, and it gives me a little extra leeway if I do accidentally take my hand off of the nail. It's going to stay there for a little bit, whereas the push pin, that baby came right back out, and then it was, going down the road like a crazy person. It wasn't sewing in a circle anymore. So anyway, that's how I did that with this sonnet, with the Sew Steady table. And here I am in the My Sonnet software, and I'm just going to start out in a blank canvas. And I am going to choose the 260 by 260 hoop. And I'm going to go into the Create tab, and I'm going to go into digitizing. The one thing that I can tell you is that the way I learned how to digitize was by going into that design player on my purchase designs and looking at how designs were made. So I would open up an applique design and I would actually go in there and look and see how it was made. Or I would open up, I'm going to back out here. I'm going to say cancel, or I would open up an embroidery design. So insert embroidery, and then I'd browse out to pick up that design, and I'd actually take a look to see how it was made. So anyway, we are going to do the circle mat. So all we're going to do is go into Quick Create. It is so simple to do this mat, it isn't even funny. The biggest thing here is that you have to think about how you want it to stitch out. Number one, I'm going to turn my pattern fill off. I'm going to start with a running stitch because I can change those back later very easily. I'm going to go into my shapes. So you could do that with a circle, or any shape that you wanted. I am going to use a circle. I have used the octagons and hexagons to make those hexagon octagon placemats, just to do the outside lines so that I've got something to work with. But today I'm going to use a circle, and I'm going to hold down the Control key and it will resize proportionately. And I'm going to go just to the outside edge. The big thing is that you, like I said, you have to think about what you're going to do, how you're going to lay it out, those kinds of things. This design is going to have some reverse applique. And you can do applique a couple different ways. You can use the applique button, or you can just add the stitches on your own. Another thing, if you're going to use the circular attachment, I always take and put one very, very tiny little circle, and I'm going to go down and get the zoom tool, go home and box select it, and I put a very, 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 very tiny circle right in the very center of my design, and that shows me where I'm going to put that needle later on, so that when I am placing applique or lettering or using a circular and then going back and adding embroidery lettering and then going back in and using some circular some more, I know where that center hole is. Okay, so here we go. Back out to full size, which is in the lower right corner, right next to the zoom. And I did another circle. These can be resized as you are building. And I'm going to do another circle. This last circle is going to end up being, let's see, and I want it to actually be 1, 2, 1, 2, so I want it to come this way a little bit. And 2, 2, so I'm actually counting these blocks so that this is equidistant, and I am going to take these two circles so this one and the first one, and I am going to group those two. And I'm going to insert a color change after the grouping of those two. And what that's going to do, this stitch is kind of a placement stitch for me. I am going to, if I were going to put a piece of batting down under, or if I were going to do this as an applique, which I did do in the bigger scheme of things, it's going to show me where a placement line is, and that I'm going to just leave as a running stitch. And the inner one can be a running stitch, but I am going to do a copy and I'm going to put a stop in here. And now I'm going to do a paste. Why won't that let me paste? There we go. All right. So what that is an applique. That's designed as an applique. So you can either lay a whole piece of fabric down and trim that later or whatever you want to do with it. You can, I personally put 2 layers of fabric underneath when I started. And then when I did this part of the design, I laid another piece of white fabric on top. These two are the placements. I don't want a running stitch to hold that fabric down, so what I am going to do is do properties, and I'm going to change that to a triple stitch or a double stitch, depending on what you want. So that inner circle applique is now a triple stitch. So that just sewed a piece of white fabric down on top of everything. So we now have 3 layers of fabric. I'm still thinking about how I want to do this. And I'm going to do one more color change. I use color changes so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to right click over the last color change and do another paste. And it pasted in as a group. I no longer want them grouped together, so I'm going to ungroup them. Now I'm going to change that running stitch and that depends on how you're going to do this. I also, if you're going to just make a small pot holder, candle mat, whatever, I would leave that as a double stitch, single stitch, whatever on the outside, and that's going to give you a cutting line so that you can cut just a 1/4 inch away from that. You can cut on that line and have that perfect circle. Again, depends on how you're going to, what you're going to do with this. I was going to go bigger, so I knew that I was going to change that running stitch to a motif line. And I know that I was going to do, let's see, what do I want? Let's see what's in here. Crafting stitches. That wasn't what I wanted. And that's not going to be what I wanted. Decorative stitches. There we go. All right. So I am going to do little circles. and I'm going to give them there. And now I'm going to do my running stitch, properties. So every time I click on to get the properties, I do a right click over the item on the film strip. And so decorative stitches again. So they can be whatever decorative stitch you want. Because this is a heart, I'm gonna say apply here. And you can actually change that if you wanted the heart to go towards the center or to the outside by using that reverse function. Okay, so that is the border of that white applique that I just made. All right, and these can all be shifted around as you wish later on. So I could group this whole thing together as a group. Now I am going to add another color. And I'm going to go with reds this time. So I believe I had, and these are going to be double or triple stitches. I am going to use them as a reverse applique, so I am going to do actually I'm going to do them, I'm going to use them as a double stitch to start out with. Again, I'm going to use circles. Hold down my control key. And I am going to move that circle and copy and paste and paste and paste. So there are some circles, and I am going to do one more thing. So it's double stitched. I'm going to add a I'm going to add a stop, and to that stop I'm going to say properties, and I'm going to say cut around the applique, and this is going to be an inside. It's going to be a reverse applique, but I want to put that little note there. And I'm going to copy those four, and I'm going to paste them after the stop. And now I am going to apply a satin line. And I'm going to do a 2 millimeter, and let's see how that looks for now. Yep. And properties, 2mm. Whoops, I forgot to change it to a satin line, 2mm. And right click, properties, satin line, 2mm, and then the last one, properties, satin line, 2mm, say OK. And now I am going to click on the, oh, one more thing. This is going to stitch out exactly as you place these. So as you click on them, you can see exactly how it's going to stitch out. So if it starts with that one, we might want to left click and slide that one up. So now it goes from bottom, up, around, counterclockwise. Now I click on the last item on my film strip, and again I'm going to insert a color change, just any old color that's different from the ones I've already used. I think in my design I actually had more of those circles. And I'm actually going to go up here and add, that is the running stitch. I'm going to make a color change up here. And I'm going to click on that color change and I'm going to add an inner circle. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could also go down to number 72 and click on Pattern Fill with a double stitch around it. So I'm going to click it and I'm going to make that nice and tiny. And I can move this up here and I can grab that little circle, do a copy and a paste. Again, move this little circle. You may even want to go get the zoom tool. And as you click on items, if they don't get the box around them, go to the home and grab the box select. And that will allow you to adjust things. Okay, we can do a copy and paste again. Whoops. Must be it didn't paste yet. So right click, copy. Right click, paste. Go grab that and again twist it around. And move it backwards a little bit. And copy, which was the right click over the last item of the film strip, and paste. And we are going to twist that just so and scooch it up a little bit. So now we have some hearts in there. I'm looking at my design that's on the chair, and it has another layer, or not another layer, but it has some more reverse appliques. So I'm going to do an insert color change. And I'm just going to use another color that is completely different. I don't want that Royal Soldier, yeah, I don't want it to be 2527. So I'm going to check that, and that's a different color, so we're good. And I am going to go back into Quick Create and grab that heart again. I'm going to turn my pattern fill off. I am going to leave it on double stitch, and that will stitch the heart outline down. And again, I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to use that little triangle to flip it. And I'm going to copy and paste. So I am going to arrange that just so, and copy and paste. And I'm going to take it over here to the other side and flip it. Okay, so those are double stitches. So after that, I'm going to do a right click, insert stop. I'm going to right click and go to properties. And I'm going to bring down that quick text and say, I could say cut a hole in the fabric, cut around the applique. This is a reverse applique. So I want people to know that this is an applique. I actually take and use a seam ripper to just create a hole through the top layer of that fabric. And then I take my applique shears and cut around that inner heart. So I am going to copy those. I'm going to click on the stop. And remember from the last time, I wanted to do a group before I copied it. And now I'm going to copy, go down to the stop, and now it's going to allow me to paste. So I've cut around everything. Now I want to apply a satin stitch. Or you don't have to do a satin stitch. Depends on what you want your edge to look like. I want a satin line. So I'm going to say 2.5 and change that to a satin line 2.5. And the other thing, as I've done in another video, those satin lines, if every satin line throughout the whole design, everything, you could use global properties and change them all in one fell swoop. But I can't remember what satin line I used on my inner circle, so I'm not going to do that just yet. Or not at all. I think I used a 2.0 on the inner circles. And the last one, properties, double stitch, satin line, 2.5, apply, say OK. Now you have something that you could do here. And what I did is I made another little heart. So I went to insert color change. And again, I just picked a random color. And I did a triple stitch. And again, I applied a heart. Held down my control key. And I placed a heart in between all of those. Copy and paste. And I scooched it over. And the other thing that you could do is select both of these and take a look at them to see if they line up, because that top one could come down just a little bit. So that they're even. Just a tiny bit more, and we're good. So you can select both of those, and you could copy them, and then you can click on the last one in the film strip and do a paste. So it just pasted those two. So you bring them down here and you hit that little triangle and it's going to paste them all as one unit. Okay. Now, the last thing you could do is, I have circles here. I think you already know how to do that. So I am going to think about how this is playing out. And I think I have it the way I want it to be. I'm going to go to my Home tab, and I'm going to go to Design Player. And I'm going to take a look-see and see how things are playing out. And I can move this slider. And there's another. And then it's doing the motifs. And then it's doing the inner circles, the cuts, and everything. So we're good. The only thing I think that might be a little different is these hearts. There's a bunch of jump stitches there. So those could have been changed as I was doing them the first time. So I would have gone way back here and done the double stitches first and rearranged them by sliding them in the correct order. And that would avoid the machine jumping from here to here and then here to here. It'd be better if it jumped from here to here to here to here. All right. Anyway, that is the basics of how I did this. You could do circles here in another color and do some reverse applique if you wanted, the same way that we did all these. You could do hearts. You could do whatever you want. At this point, I am going to say save as, and I am going to put it in my desktop in my video folder. And I always do that just in case when I close out here, it doesn't do what I want it to do. And I'm going to do an export. And I am again going to go into the folder that I am saving. So, and I'm going to call it Tablemat, just in case, because I'd hate to have created all this and then when I click out here, it doesn't show up in the regular embroidery file. All right. The other thing that I did was I added some lettering. So I picked a letter, and I know it's going to be a small letter, and I am going to do a capital letter. And that's going to be a really small letter, so I am going to do a delete there. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's try a 20. And I'm actually going to do a zoom in. And I'm going to take this up here. And I'm going to twist the letter just so. And it's a little bigger than I want it. So I'm going to do edit lettering. So I right-clicked over that box and said edit lettering. And I'm going to go down to a, let's do a 16. And I'm going to remember that. 16 looks like it's about the right size. And now I'm going to do a O. And I'm going to move that up. And I may or may not give it a little twist. And a V. And all I gotta do is figure out where that V went. Okay, and it was way down at the bottom, and I'm gonna move it up to where I can grab it. And I'm gonna do my placement just so. And capital E. So I did my lettering different because I had a really big circular mat going. I'm going to try something different here. I am going to group them, and I'm wondering if I can do a copy and a paste. And move those around. Ooh, it looks like I can. So I could technically, if I wanted to, come down here to that center and do that. And copy and paste. And I'm very tempted to just go over to the other side and kind of flip it with the little triangle, but I don't want it to stitch out that way. And copy, and clicking on the last item of my film strip, paste, and now I'm going to slide it right up here using that line as my center point. Okay, and I'm going to scooch that just a tiny bit, and I might even shrink that lettering just a tiny bit. Okay, and then you could actually go into the super design and grab one of those hearts, and let's do that at a 20 and see what that looks like. I'm betting it's going to be too big. And I am going to go back out to the normal size. So it landed in the center. May or may not want it in the center. And that heart is going to be way too big. So I just deleted it by clicking on it and hitting the delete key. And I'm going to do a size 15 now. And there we go. And if I zoom in, that will give me that circle that I'm looking for. And you can move those around accordingly. So now I am looking at this design. I did not put batting under it when I stitched it out. So I am not going to make any other changes to this. And I am going to save it as a, okay, in my video folder, as a Tablemat V4. And I just did a video on the difference between a V4 and a V3. A V4 is going to keep everything as it is, which is going to allow me to go back in and edit my digitizing if I want to add anything to this design. So if I wanted to go back in and add one more running stitch around this whole design, to hold it down to some batting afterwards, I could do that. So I could just take that running stitch and say copy, go down here to the very, very end, do a color change. I'm going to do black so you can see what I'm doing. And now I can do a paste, and that just put a line that's going to hold batting down if you so desire. You can also change that by right-clicking over it and changing that double stitch to a triple stitch and say OK. All right. I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of it. And if you have a machine that does not take a VP4 file, you would then go and export to the VP3 format. I made every color different, so it's going to stitch out exactly as I want it to stitch. I could have just used the same color and placed stops in between everything, but then I don't necessarily know how it's going to stitch out. We're going to say OK. And I'm going to call it Tablemat V3. And it says exported, so I know that it is an exported design. All right. Now, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to do a Control A for all, get rid of everything. I'm going to go open. There's my V4 format. My digitizing is still there. I can still right click and do edit and digitizing. Everything looks good. If I were to go into and open up my V3 design, it's all as one. There's no more digitizing. It's been color sorted and it's been combined and all that happiness. Okay, now just one more thing. So this is my machine, and I wanted to show you how big this actually is. This is the 260 by 260 hoop, and I brought my letters. I created a separate file for each letter and brought them onto the screen that way, but I also used the design placement app that is on the cell phones. All you do is hoop your design and place it in the, place the design in the hoop the way you want it, and it will send it to the screen on your machine exactly as it is in the hoop, and then you can bring your lettering and place it exactly where you want. That is, oh my God, so sweet to use. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel to keep these types of videos coming. And if you want a video on something specific, leave it in the comments. If I can make a video for you, if I know how to do what you're asking for, I can make a video. And give me a like. Share it with your friends that need software help. And as a reminder, there are some other really great sites for videos on this machine embroidery software. Phil Carlton has a channel and Linda Wade has a channel. There's Power Tools with Thread. Maggie has a channel where she actually does a project every other month and does step by step. So Hope you enjoyed this video and catch you later. Bye.